DDG episode 198. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
Dave, how's it going? I know you've been experimenting for the last couple hours with some new tech. I've been getting into the mind of recording, but also looking at my awesome Spider-Man statue that can't not be seen on stream because it's right
Oh
behind me.
yeah.
But
Your entire head blocks 19 inches, just so you're aware.
I know, yeah, it's pretty impressive, one way or the other. But yeah, how's it going, Dave?
I'm good. Yeah. So we've been messing with some stuff. I've been messing with some stuff. So I bought another interface. I was a little worried about my Go XLR. Just I don't know. I've had it actually for a while when I went back and looked at it. So Go XLR is a mixer I use for some of the stuff. We've had some crackling of my mic. I don't think that was the main cause of it, but it gave me good enough reason to start thinking about looking at some changes. And I've really liking all the stuff that Elgato has been doing lately. So I'm trying to interface most of that as I can into one format to make it a little hopefully easier and better for the listeners and the viewers. So that's what started it, along with TwitchCon was this weekend, and at TwitchCon they announced something that they should have never they reverted a thing that they should have never turned on in the first place. But since we are a Twitch affiliate, we are underneath Twitch's terms of service. So underneath those TOS, we were technically not allowed to simulcast stream to other live platforms. So we could stream on YouTube, but not at the same time as Twitch, and then as well as TikTok and all that other fun stuff. And so step one is now that we are simulcasting on Twitch and YouTube at the same time, which is what simulcasting means. But so we do, obviously we've neglected our YouTube channel for a little while. And hopefully that stops as I'm trying to use my Stream Deck a little bit more and make it a little easier on both of us to just post content on there, as well as my wife, who helps with a lot of that content as well. I'm still messing with YouTube, but it's youtube.com/digitaldaysgaming. Like I found out today that there's like a podcast feed on there as well. I don't know exactly what that's going to do. Behind the scenes, I have uploaded all like 205 episodes or whatever we have from the podcast feed. I have not pushed that live to anybody yet, so if your inbox gets spammed, please just message me and I will apologize to you. But
hopefully it doesn't spam.
Yes,
I'm
I hope
pretty
it
sure
doesn't
it's just
either.
gonna.
So
Yeah, I think you'll be all right.
I don't know how this works either, but our listeners might be able to listen on YouTube and just have a black screen or like lock their phone, and you can listen through YouTube. So I know a lot of people really like YouTube as a platform, and it's great. I know a lot of places can't watch Twitch if they're on certain kind of Wi-Fi's, like at universities and stuff like that, or high schools. Twitch is a banned site, but YouTube is not. So it's just a couple things. So let us know, like send us a message or comment. I can see both chats. I can see our YouTube chat and our Twitch chat because we're using something called Restream. So bear with us as we're going through some stuff. Hopefully my audio sounds a little bit better. I was able to tweak a couple things with this as I've been messing with my interface. But anyway, so you can listen to us multiple ways now, hopefully. YouTube, Twitch, and as well as just our podcast feed. It posts every Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. DigitalDaysGaming.com. Like I mentioned before, YouTube.com/DigitalDaysGaming and Twitch.tv/DigitalDaysGaming. So I honestly feel like this is something, and Michael, I don't know if you realize this or not, like in 6 days, we're like 4 years old.
Oh no, I just got the email. I have to renew the domain.
Okay.
Which means 1 year has passed since the last time I've had to renew the domain.
So
yeah.
And with that, I honestly feel like one of the goals that you had, and that we had, but particularly you had in mind when we were naming the show, is that when you Googled Digital Days Gaming, like that predominantly we were what came up, whatever the name was going to be. So I feel like if you want to figure out how to access multiple pieces of our content, if you just Google Digital Days Gaming, I think we dominate the entire front page of Google.
Yeah, we should. And then also, I believe now, if you just Google our names, Digital Days Gaming should be the top result as well. So, Dave's name, my name, we should pop up. I mean, some things have happened to where it just makes more sense that our stuff has been pushed up by our name. But yeah, no, it's very easy to find, so tell your friends.
Yes. So just share anything you can do to share and get more eyes or ears listening. Sharing is always free. Subscribing on podcast feeds is free. Following on social media is free. You can subscribe to us on Twitch if you want, with your Twitch affiliate or with your Twitch sub through Amazon, or with just a paid sub. And monetization on YouTube is probably like a long way away, but that would be a goal eventually. I'm sure that there's some super chat things and stuff you can do.
There is, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll dig into a little bit more YouTube, but we'll see where we go from there. So please just let us know, like, and anything, post in Discord, post it on Facebook, tweet at us if you watch the YouTube stream or if you watch the Twitch stream. Or I'm hoping that the one thing that the YouTube thing does is archive automatically. So
it will, but it's one of those things where it archives automatically, but it takes a really long time for it to actually pop up.
Well, that's better than either you or I just completely forgetting to put the show on there. So.
Yeah, it's fine. As someone who like watches YouTube live streams, like you have to click the live tab to see the archive before it actually propagates in like the actual feed or populates.
But anyways, let us know. Leave a comment on YouTube if you're watching it live or if you're watching it archived or on demand, as well as just comment in Twitch and all that stuff. And we're gonna get into the news.
Yeah, so we have just I don't know, I would say like some okay and bad, some bad PlayStation news, and it leads to some good PlayStation news, and then we get some Xbox news. I just preface that because I know there's some, diehard PlayStation fans that listen to this podcast that get kind of upset when we say anything. They might be a little bit negative about PlayStation. Same thing with the Xbox crowd too. When we say negative things about Xbox, we get those people that will come out and be like, why are you being negative about the platform I love? But let's start with some of the like iffy to bad PlayStation news before we get into the good PlayStation news. This first one, Dave, I just think it's hilarious that people are upset about this. The new PS5 optical drive, the disk drive attachment for the PS5 Slim requires an internet connection the first time you connect it to your system. So it's just sparked a lot of outrage and confusion amongst folks. I'm just going to state this right now. Technically, on the PS4, you couldn't play Blu-rays or DVDs until you connected your PS4 to the internet for the first time, and that was so they could get like the licensing, and I believe there's also some like DMCA reasoning on why you want to do that. So it's like a piracy check, and also I think with around the PS4 time, they were like, oh, PlayStation might be able to like help with their licensing fees, like if they like force like they basically like, hey, if you want to play a Blu-ray you need to be connected to the internet for the first time, so they then can license that drive or whatever. So this is nothing new. I believe the Xbox has something similar to this. Like you do need an internet connection the first time you set up your Xbox in order to get the full features. So this is nothing really to like bring the pitchforks out at PlayStation. It's just the way things function now.
I get it. I just think it's a little weird. Like I tweeted this today.
It's dumb. Yeah. It's weird.
It's a firmware thing. Like it's 100% a firmware thing. I feel the majority of, and I'm actually kind of surprised at how you are on this, and I think you're almost to the point of understanding. But the concern is the physical media crowd and the collector. For whatever reasons. Ultimately, they should probably just be buying a built-in disk drive anyways. They shouldn't buy a digital thing with an option for an optical drive.
Yeah.
But anyway, if they do, and or if they get it secondhand, and I don't know, let's say that they find it at a garage sale 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and then they want to go get then they buy it on eBay. They buy the optical disk drive as they're piecemealing this together. If the servers don't work, and it'd be interesting, I'm sure that ultimately there would probably be this website you could go to and load something onto a thumb drive and put the thumb drive in the PlayStation. I'm sure that would be a thing, but
PlayStation patches it out 10 years down the line.
Yeah. Which again would be odd of like, how do you patch it out other than, like what happens if you get somebody that, doesn't have it? There is that crowd that just wants to go buy their box, plug it in to an electrical outlet, put their disc in and play. And they don't care that they don't have the latest version. They don't care that their controller's not up to date. They don't care about any of that stuff. They want to be off the grid, or they want to do whatever they want to do, and play their games that they own and that they purchased, and that they're, their physical media. And so that part is a little weird. It's similar to Switch, when Switch is like, oh yeah, all Bluetooth headsets work now. We're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It's like, well, you could have been working this entire time. Yeah, no, I understand the fear of like, hey, what about 10 years down the line if PlayStation shuts off that firmware like server? or whatever, that connection to the PlayStation, or people that are completely offline. And at that point, I would say, if you're completely offline, you're probably buying the one that already has the disk drive built in. You have to know going into this generation that it is an always online console. So the idea that you have to be online one time, just one time, to get this drive to sync shouldn't be something that like is a deal breaker for you. Especially, Dave, I don't know if you know this, but there's only a handful of games that you can actually play from the disc without being connected to the internet.
Yeah, because there's been
Spider-Man, Final Fantasy 16, and a handful of other like smaller games. But like in terms of big games, they're practically unplayable without an internet connection.
Well, there's been a bunch of outrage this week too about the Metal Gear Solid collection or the Metal Gear collection on Switch.
That is Konami just fucking up.
But it's a similar concept of like you buy you buy the physical cartridge on Switch, but you still need stuff to do like You just bought your Spider-Man collection. You got a steel case, but you got a little piece of paper with a code in it.
Yeah,
you didn't get a disc, and you knew that. But everything's changing. So like this is just kind of like this is the get off my lawn crowd, and I understand and I see your perspective, but I also agree with you of like okay, like go take it to the library.
Yeah,
go to Starbucks.
It's really that big a deal. Yeah, you'll find a way, and I think PlayStation could patch this out in the future by just when they continue to release the slim models, it just comes with firmware already on board that knows like, hey, accept this handshake. I also think that there's a chance that they're not going to be selling these disk drives for many years to come. Like it's gonna. I have a feeling this is gonna be a rare item.
I mean, I still remember.
I might pick up.
Yeah, I still remember. Michael's gonna have like 6 drives and no consoles for it.
Yeah, basically. I might buy a slim just for the fuck of it.
Switching the hard drive on the PS3, like you had to get the firmware on a thumb drive.
Yeah, in the PS3, yeah.
Yeah, so like you had no choice. It was part of the process of, like it was like cuz if you put this new hard drive in your PS3 and you plugged it in, like it didn't know what to do. Like the PlayStation didn't know what to do because there was no hardware, software on it, no PlayStation based stuff on it at all. So like the evolution of what we've gone to where they're turning on the music's the licensed music playing through off of a jump drive on PS4. I remember that being a big deal. That kind of came out like in a blog post like after the PlayStation press conference at E3, and you're like, that's something like everybody's been asking for a long time, and you just released it in an email.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, I remember that because I was also. I think that was in the Blackhawks one. So it was like me, Josh, and Glenn, and you walking around, and I'm just like, oh, the Blackhawks one, and then like, oh, PlayStation just did an email.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just odd, and it just kind of goes like lately. The thing that sucks the most right now is this is something small, but it's just another layer of that weird thing that PlayStation, just weird optics that PlayStation's been doing the last 6 months. That's all, 6 to 9 months. The optics around it are just weird. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's definitely just weird PlayStation things like. This shouldn't be too shocking. The fact that they didn't mention this in the original post is probably what's making people like, oh my god, are they trying to like pull one over? Because like the reason this leaked is the Modern Warfare 3 PS5 bundles are kind of already out in the wild. I think stores that have them already, and they're just street dated. And it's on the back of the box and like asterisk fine print of like internet connection required. So the idea that PlayStation didn't announce this to begin with in their initial slim post is leading a lot of people to like kind of be over dramatic on this revelation that you need an internet connection, because guess what, you probably need an internet connection to set up your PlayStation 5 regardless of the disk drive or not being there. So it's a whatever story, but I thought we would bring it up because it's kind of funny just to see people freak out over that. But Dave, let's talk about some bad news over at PlayStation. So the layoffs that we heard about in terms of contracts being terminated over for contractors at Naughty Dog, it looks like other PlayStation studios have been hit. The first studio we'll talk about is the Visual Arts Group. So this is like one of those auxiliary artillery studios. I believe it's based in San Diego. Multiple people. Employees and contractors from that studio basically hit up LinkedIn to be like, hey, I was let go, and released with the recent wave of layoffs over at PlayStation, which alludes to maybe multiple studios having hits. So visual arts, the last thing that they worked on was The Last of Us Part 1 remake, which they did a phenomenal job at. So this could be one of those, hey, you finished a project, so we don't have much going on. So ending contracts naturally, but it also sounds like some people were laid off. There's also some layoffs happening at Media Molecule, around like 20 employees, which doesn't sound like a lot, but these are still people losing their jobs, which is, you know, a shame to hear. But there is a studio that they were only 135 employees, and now they're going to be knocked down to 115. So Media Molecules being hit. They said that they're having to do this because they're basically completely done with Dreams, which they previously announced was going to happen in September. And they're moving on to a new project, and they don't need as many people for this new project. It's good to hear Media Molecule has a new project, to be honest, because it's a studio I think me and you have been kind of worried about, Dave, in terms of like what's their future look like. But that was also kind of tied into Haven before we saw what Haven was working on. And then another one, this one's unconfirmed, but it's coming from like Jaffe, who's pretty connected with some of the people at PlayStation that have been there a while. The SVP and head of internal production, Connie Booth, has left PlayStation after 25 years. There's no word on if this was a layoff or someone just retiring or resigning. But them being at PlayStation for 25 years seems to have like struck a nerve with a lot of people that have worked with PlayStation for the last couple decades, that this person's leaving. Dave, I know I just threw a lot of stuff at you right now, but definitely it seems like PlayStation, despite being number one and kind of, you know, hit game after hit game, they're being hit with layoffs. So do you have any initial thoughts on the layoffs kind of hitting PlayStation?
No, not really. I mean, it's just like they're in this weird transition right now, I feel like, between games, between projects, between creative assessments. Like I think that I mean, it's been a long time since media, like, I mean, I don't know, do you consider Dreams a success or a failure?
It was a success in terms of making a really cool tool set. Success sales wise, no, it wasn't.
So it's been a long time since Media Molecules made a game, like a really long time. So like it's not surprising that until they figure out exactly, I'm with you. Like I think it's really cool that they've got another project, but until they get a little farther in that project, then they're probably going to add more people, because like they're still businesses, they're still independent. You know, I mean, they're owned by Sony, but they're still, you know, they still have their own profit and loss. They still have their own like managers and processes to run, and they'll need to hire more people as they progress farther in their project, and then therefore when they get done with that project, they will then shrink their staff down. That is par for the course in the video game industry, in general. Like if there's not a game to work on, like you don't have a job. Like you're not going to just sit there and make patches for, I mean, there's nothing like, what are they, I mean, there's nothing else being done on Dreams.
Yeah, it's completely being sunsetted.
Right.
I think it already happened.
However far they are or aren't in this new project, they don't need all this. They probably don't need all this overhead. Now, granted, 20 people is, if you consider 20 people overhead, like can Sony or PlayStation pay the bill for those 20 or 30 people? Probably. Does it make business and analytical sense to do that? No. So like that's just where that comes from. So it sucks that anytime anybody loses their job, but it's also kind of one of those things where like I feel like most of the people in the video game industry like understand that, where we don't see as big of an outrage around it. We see an outrage from the media outlets when it happens, but I don't see somebody from Media Molecule or from these other companies saying, you know, I got laid off because of this. Like the reality is usually what it is that it's truth. Like there's nothing for them to do.
So I would say you're right to a certain extent, but also you want to be hireable. So you don't want to like trash the former employee, because this is just standard video game business. Mm-hmm. Like you, no matter what, if you're on a contract or not, you kind of know what you're getting into. Sadly, in the video game industry, in terms of like you can be let go at any time because the vision changed for the studio or the parent company of that studio. But yeah, no, it's kind of unfortunately like just an accepted state of how business is run in the video game industry, of just like uh it almost feels like, kind of sports free agency season for video games, or like wrestling has that as well, where the every year they make cuts to the roster and stuff like that. So it almost feels like the video game industry has like 2 or 3 times a year where layoffs is kind of hitting. It's usually with the stupid fucking financial report, but it's just kind of become the norm for studios, even healthy studios or companies like PlayStation, who, as far as we know, top of the world. There might be a little bit of scare, like a little uneasiness in the future of PlayStation in terms of like, what are they going to do with like all of these live service games now that the person who wanted that is gone.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also why you're going to start seeing some layoffs, because they probably hired up for some live service games, and if they aren't going down that direction anymore, they're not going to need those people anymore.
Right.
And then when it comes to like Media Molecule, they haven't been like a multi-game studio since like 2013.
Yeah.
Because they just to show you how busy they were, 2011, Little Big Planet 2, 2012, Little Big Planet Karting, 2013, Tearaway, 2014, Little Big Planet 3. 2 of those games they co-developed, but that was a game a year for a little bit. And then 2015, Tearaway, 2020, Dreams.
Right.
So they slowed down as they became a one-game studio. So I'm just glad they're going to be still around. They have a lot of leadership that like left over the last like year, 2 years that we talked about before. But I feel like PlayStation can't close Media Molecule, because I know you might not see them as like a prestigious studio, but like they are kind of tied in with like the good days of PlayStation.
Little Big Planet is a marquee, like Sackboy is a marquee figure in the PlayStation universe.
Yeah.
Like, and he came from Media Molecule. Like, there's no if,
which I think gives them a safety net.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I mean, they tried to make the Mario of PlayStation. They didn't, but they made an iconic character.
Yeah. So Media Molecule, we'll see what's going on. The Annie Booth stuff, it's for that one, a lot of people seem panicked about that, but I could also see like, hey, Jim Ryan was there 30 years. Connie Booth, sorry, not Annie. Connie Booth left PlayStation after 25 years. It could just be like, hey, people that she came into the company with are also leaving right now. It's probably the time to also leave. Yeah. Especially if you're around retirement age.
I was gonna say, like, if let's say that she worked her way up through the video game industry, did some other things, got to Sony at 35, 37, 40 years old, you're talking about 55, 58 years old. Like, and they probably, like, let's not beat around the bush. These people, these big names and these corporations make a lot of money. On top of, they're not dumb people, so I'm sure that they invest their money very well. They utilize 401k of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, which probably has a way better 401k than any of us people listening to this show have. And like, it gets to the point where like, I don't have to work anymore. I want to spend time with my grandkids. I want to spend time with my with my significant other. I want to go live on a lake. Like, and you hit 58, 60, 62 years old, like, and you can do it. More power to you. My dad retired like the day he turned 55. Like he worked for the federal government his entire adult life, whether he was in the service or working for the armed forces, the federal government. He had multiple pensions, and then he lives up north as like a little hermit with my mom, and they don't really go anywhere, and they live on a lake and don't do anything, but they're retired people and they live well within their means and they're fine with it. Like, and he's the majority of the 60-plus-year-old people. Like, like it just happens. You get to a point where you're like, you just don't want to get up and do the grind anymore, and you don't need to, because you've spent the last 25 years of your life working, 50 hours a week all the time and making a good amount of money.
And there's also just the idea of just like being there for like 25 years means you saw the rise of PlayStation, you saw a little bit of almost a borderline downfall, and then you saw it rise again to where it's like, there's only so many times that can excite you as like a person of like, do we want to do this again? Or the perspective of like, PlayStation's number one, that's probably not changing anytime soon. So maybe it's time to leave.
Or you also look at the metrics that are working and the systems that you put in place that worked 15 years ago, and you're seeing them, like, your voice isn't as dominant as it was because the world has changed and they don't understand the change as well.
Yeah. Or you're like, Xbox probably can use some leadership, and you're just like, I wonder if I'm a free agent if Xbox would come calling.
Right.
Because like honestly, if you're Xbox and you can't fucking really shit, seeing like these higher ups at PlayStation leave, even a Jim Ryan, we give Jim Ryan shit, but he was there for 30 years for a reason.
Yeah.
Like if you can put a Jim Ryan or this or Connie Booth on a board somewhere for Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, or Xbox, you maybe consider doing that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be something that interests people.
Yeah.
Consultant. I mean, that's basically what Sean Layden's doing and like Jack Tretton are doing. So it also seems like when you're in the business world and you hit a certain age, that's the work you kind of gravitate towards, is like the consultant work or like a board seat. Like Reggie was on the board of GameStop for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of what you do when you hit like a certain like seniority level in terms of experience in the business world. So the idea that this person's leaving, it did cause some people to kind of like panic. I know like the David Jaffe, I'm not a fan of Dave Jaffe, but apparently he was very upset that this person was leaving, but didn't have any context of like why they were leaving. So it just seemed kind of like overblown right there. But we can move on. I'm sure we'll hear more about layoffs this coming season. Or this coming holiday season, unfortunately, because I believe Embracer just did some layoffs for one of their companies. I forget which group it was. So we'll probably hear more about this stuff, unfortunately. But I did promise some good news for PlayStation during our rundown. Spider-Man 2 breaks PlayStation records. So PlayStation revealed that Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 sold 2.5 million copies in 24 hours. And that makes Spider-Man 2 the fastest selling PlayStation Studios game of all time. Not surprising.
Yeah, not shocking. A sequel with a 2 next to it of Spider-Man. Like,
yeah, but great for Insomniac. I feel like this could this finally cements, since I cemented Insomniac as my PlayStation studio like 2 years ago. But I would imagine those type of numbers kind of, and Naughty Dog going through what Naughty Dog's going through kind of cements.
Well, and to be fair, like Insomniac kind of went through what Naughty Dog's going through too when they were doing Fuse and Sunset Overdrive and prior to the purchase. Like, I mean, you can't, you can't bat 1,000. And hopefully, I'm fully confident that Naughty Dog, whenever they decide to, whatever it is that they're gonna do, whether it's going back to Uncharted, or doing a third Last of Us, or something else completely different that they want to do, like it'll be great. It's just at this point in time, I'm just waiting to hear that they just need to can factions.
Well, so I was reading a lot of the stuff about like the PlayStation layoff stuff and digging into like various news articles. It seems like Factions was canceled, but they just didn't use the word canceled. It was like frozen on the shelf. Like they're taking their foot off the gas pedal. Like I heard so many like roundabout phrases for canceled for Factions. And I'm sure Naughty Dog will bounce back up, but like PlayStation's just really lucky that like when their prestige studio, their number one studio, Naughty Dog's kind of on like a little bit of a down right now, that Insomniac has been able to come through for them.
100%. Because like Wolverine's got to be this time next year, right? Close to it.
Yeah, I believe they were. I think the rumors were 2024, 2025.
Yeah.
And that's
so I would either say
holiday.
I'd say holiday 2024 or February, March 2025. Those are the times that Sony really likes to release games. It's like October, November, and March, April. Like with a June sprinkle in there. The latest would be June of 2025.
The only thing I would say that would probably slip them into 2025 holiday is if they release an expansion or something standalone for Spider-Man 2.
A Miles Morales-like thing. Yes.
Yeah. Because Spider-Man 1 did have DLC, and then, of course, Spider-Man Miles Morales felt like an expansion.
And I already saw some tweet about somebody going out of bounds and finding something in Spider-Man that's not in the game. So...
yeah, which is... I saw some of that stuff, too. So like that would be the only thing I can think of that slows Wolverine down. And honestly, I don't see anything else coming from PlayStation. So I feel like a lot of pressure will be put on Insomniac for like, hey, we need Wolverine soon, and if
Yeah,
any studio
other
can
than
do it,
the Haven game and the sometimes always. I mean, in terms of, I guess from Sony proper, like when I refer to Sony proper is like holiday next year will probably be filled with Marathon, Haven's game, Marathon from Bungie, Haven's game that I can't free money or whatever. I can't think of the
Fair
name.
Games.
Fair Games, and Concord.
Yeah.
Like that will probably be like a juggernaut of the holiday for Sony next year. Like so this time next year.
And if they release all three of those, they would be so dumb to release
I know
those games. But that's something that's possible.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Santa Monica will not be ready with anything God of War, continuation.
No.
And there's rumored like God of War DLC or Miles Morales like standalone Miles Morales, Uncharted, Lost Legacy style game. Rumors of it. Sony Santa Monica's gonna do their MLB thing. So like
Sucker Punch could have something, but
I think we would have heard of it by now. Like we would have had a teaser trailer or something. But
head down studios though.
So I mean, I'm just saying, like there's definitely precedent set for like the plan of what they have to use these live service games to buffer between their big blockbusters. So.
Yeah, and just to give Insomniac more kudos, they were one of the few companies that they did not revert from the work from home policy. They actually embraced it even more and encouraged it. And like we'll talk about Spider-Man later, but like it's a high quality product, and it looks like Insomniac's doing it right with how they treat their employees and all that stuff.
Well, the head of the head community manager or something just moved. Like
during
the launch.
And it seems like that is like I follow a lot of Insomniac people. And It seems like a lot of them are not reporting to a home office.
They're in Burbank, right?
I believe they have 2 locations. I want to say they have one in the Carolinas, but I believe Burbank's one of them.
Burbank, California is like the head, like outside of LA.
Yeah, and then I think there's a Carolinas. I just don't remember which one.
Yeah, but I mean, they're figuring it out, and I'm sure they're able to acquire the talent that they want. Oh, you live in Iowa, but we want you to work on Spider-Man. It's fine. Stay in Iowa.
Yeah. I'm trying to see where is their other location, because they are 2. Burbank is the main one. But yeah, either way, they have 2 studios.
Yeah.
And they seem to be doing pretty fine in terms of you don't hear horrible crunch stuff like you heard out of Naughty Dog coming from Insomniac. No. I'm sure there is crunch, but like it doesn't seem to be as severe of a situation.
And I feel like the crunch conversation has changed a little bit too. I was like, is it crunch if you're down in your office at home and you can still like, I mean, yeah, work is work. I understand that, but like with the remote, the ability to like, hey, I'm gonna work from home today because my daughter is sick. Like I've been at home when Owen's sick. He doesn't need 110% nursing attention to him, but he's 8. He can't be home by himself. To where like you don't feel the stress of like, I have to go to the office. All my files are at the office versus like they can work on something. They can put their daughter to bed. They can keep working on it.
You don't hear about like the shitty Elon Musk crunch of like everyone sleeping on the office floor bullshit anymore, which happened in the video game industry a lot back in the day.
I revert back to, and it was still happening with Destiny 2. And I know you're not a big fan of him, but Luke Smith, like she was trying to. We were in Seattle for like a day and a half or whatever, and we were previewing the game, and she, like one of the head of PR people was eating lunch with me, and she was texting, and she's like, I'm like, hey, what's going on? She's like, I'm trying to get Luke to come over here for the dinner, and I'm like. And she's like, but he won't leave the office. And then she was finally convincing him, and he's like, no, I can't come. And she's like, I don't understand why you can't. And he goes, I haven't showered in 3 days. Like he didn't leave his office.
Yeah, which I'm sure that crunch is still happening at home, and it probably gets a little more like icky in terms of like.
Agree, but at least they're in their house.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know it sounds bad when I say that, though. They're not in the office. They're not sleeping on a cot. They're not sleeping on a pullout. They're at home. They're in their house. Yeah. They're in their comfortable domain. Like.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if they're hunched over the keyboard still and sitting there sweating bullets and slamming Red Bull. But like that's
you also might feel more comfortable walking away from being at home from your computer as opposed to having like your manager over your shoulder the entire time, just pumping like monster energy and Red Bulls into your veins. Because holy shit, that is totally a lifestyle that they used to have. All right, we'll move on to some Xbox news. Starfield, we got some slight numbers, not the numbers we were looking for, but Microsoft had Xbox share their quarterly numbers, and Xbox had a few things to brag about with Starfield. Though I can't wait to find out about Starfield in like a quarter or two, because I have a feeling that tale is not going to be that great. But 11 million people have played Starfield. Almost half of the hours played have been on PC. Starfield's release date marked the highest number of subscriptions added to Game Pass in a single day. And then Xbox revenue for the quarter saw 9% growth, and Xbox specifically attributes a lot of that growth to Starfield. So I think Starfield did everything that Xbox wanted. Maybe not as much. Maybe they were hoping it would like set the world on fire, and it kind of seems like it didn't, but it still was a success regardless of that.
Yeah, I think if the Game Pass number was a significant number, like if it broke like 32 or 35 million, I think they would have said it.
They did,
yep. So I'm still saying it's probably anywhere between 28.5 to 30 under. It's 28.5 to or 28 million to under 31 million. I think the last official number we ever heard was like 25. They've talked about the console growth has stagnant, but the PC growth has been good to great, which coincides with these Starfield believed numbers. But yeah, I mean
so they did pass 30 million in September, apparently.
So that probably would have been with Starfield.
Potentially, people had to dig to find this data.
Okay.
Yeah, January 2022, they were around 25 million. And then people dug into stuff last month and went over 30 million. So it's kind of what you're talking about right now. So yeah.
It'd be very interesting to see. I'm with you to see this quarter the content growth number was good. Next quarter, I would expect the content number to not be as good. Because I feel like, to your point, if anybody's like, okay, I played Starfield, I paid my $18 a month for 2 months, I'm done. Like, and I'll play when something else grabs my attention. I'll re-up when something else grabs my attention on Game Pass. And you know that gets into the argument of like, what's better, getting $36 from the guy down the street or getting nothing because he waits for Starfield to go on sale? Like, that's you could make that argument until you're blue in the face of what's better and what's not better. I can make the case for everybody that allegedly says I'm going to do this for 2 months and forgets that they have the subscription and keeps it for 6 to 9 months or longer. Which is, par for the course for a lot of people with subscription services. They just forget to cancel. But yeah, I mean, like, it's not a shock that Starfield sold. I think it would have sold whether Microsoft owned them or didn't own them. I will say that I feel like the narrative around, and you know this better than I do, but I don't feel like it was a glitchy mess like some of the Fallout games have been, like a mess.
Yeah, no, not as glitchy before, but I think we talked about like some of the stuff Bethesda was able to get away before they haven't been able to get away with. Yeah. Which is kind of why I kind of stopped playing after about 10 hours of just like, oh, this stuff doesn't do anything for me anymore. Right. But in terms of glitchiness, it seems like it was better than before, but before was awful. Dumpster fire. Yeah. Like, so now it's just like a trash
like a dumpster kindling.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, the legs of Starfield is, are we going to see another surge of this, like, around the holiday season? Are we going to see this for like $40 on sale? Like, is Wario going to be tweeting about it after, because then it might become a certain point in time where Microsoft feels that they've gotten their initial surge out of it. Now they just want to move units. I'll be curious if this ends up on I think if it was, I guess we're not close enough yet, but I mean, I could see this being a $50 or $45 price point on Black Friday, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then I would imagine any holiday bundles are going to be Game Pass bundles with Starfield art. Like, hey, Starfield's pre-installed, but you can't play it until you activate the little
voucher,
Game Pass code voucher that's in the box.
Yep. So, I mean, I could totally see that. But I mean, it's like we talked about. Like, if they can somehow release these games, Avowed, Outer Worlds, Hellblade, these games that they've been working on and showing us for a long time. If they can get these out, one of these out every, I mean, we need to see something in January, February from them again.
The thing that we were expecting for them is to be able to have a game a quarter.
60 to 90 days. Yep.
Yeah.
So there's not another game coming. I mean, like you're talking about Starfield at Labor Day, and there's nothing coming probably until Valentine's Day. That's 6 months. That's too long.
Yeah, if you don't count Forza, but I don't think most people do because it's just kind of the sun rises and the sun sets.
I count Forza like I do MLB. It's there. It does well. It's not marquee.
It's not. It might keep someone subscribed, but it's not going to add new subscribers.
Right.
Sort of thing.
So I mean, I think it's good. I love that. Two completely different companies doing two completely different paths. One cares about selling a box, the other one doesn't. It's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, and it's successful for both of them, just different levels of success depending on how you want to measure it. But I need to see what next quarter is.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I imagine next quarter will be a growth compared to the same quarter last year. But will it be growth from this quarter we're talking about is going to be
it'll be year over year growth, but will it be 100? I'm just using a round number. They did 100 million this quarter. What if they do 85 million or 75 million next quarter?
Yeah, so like I want to see that, and that would be very telling because Microsoft will pitch it, like, hey, year over year growth has been fantastic, and they won't mention the previous quarter at all. The next bit, Xbox had a third-party event, which I remember them announcing last week, but then I completely forgot about it. I just watched the trailers, but you said you watched the whole.
Yeah, I turned it on. I turned the YouTube channel on. I was off work today. I put it on my big screen. It was very Nintendo Direct-ish, which is fine. A lot of it at the end of after they showed it, they would show like their Xbox Wire article or something. Like they would say, click here, go here for more. I was like, whatever. I will give them credit. Like, and I think they said Game Pass like 2 times, or they showed the logo like 2 times or 3 times. Like it truly was a third party, and it was not a heavy third party Game Pass event, which I guess is refreshing to see. But at the same time, I don't understand why Microsoft was doing it. Like, because it wasn't like it didn't help Microsoft. Like, I don't know.
I think this is just partner agreements. This might be one of those things where it's just like, hey, we gave you 2 Game Pass games. You got to promote our non-Game Pass game at least once. And then they had enough of those deals that they're like, fuck it. Let's go.
Yeah. So, I mean, like the stuff you have in like the, so Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, is that and the thing they showed, are those 2 different games, or is that the game? Like the Resort Island?
That's just a mini game. The Yakuza games have always had like different like things inside the game that feel like it.
So there's a whole Infinite Wealth storyline, right?
Yes.
And then there's this whole build your own resort Animal Crossing thing they got going on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And that's just how it always like you've always done.
I don't know enough about these games, so.
Yakuza always finds like a new little thing to add to the game, whether it's managing host clubs or being a photographer or running a baseball team. There's always something in a Yakuza game, and this one's hook is like, what if we just did like an Animal Crossing in the middle of this game?
It looked the game itself like the graphics and the way it functions it looks amazing to me. I'll never play it.
I'm really excited for this. Yeah. And I want to say the other Yakuza game is coming out soon. And then this one's following that one.
Yeah, I feel like I thought I saw January 24th.
Yeah, and I believe the other one is coming out this month or next month. So like they're gonna hit a lot of Yakuza content.
Yeah, I mean they had this game called The Finals, and it's in an open beta that goes live this week. That looks super super interesting from a free to play shooter battle royale style. I can't tell what that was exactly. It looked fun.
A lot of destructibility and different ways to approach things. I forgot this had like closed betas twice this year.
I totally missed this game, but it looks super interesting where they were like blowing the floor up. Gave me a little bit of like Rainbow Six meets Fortnite.
Yeah,
Call of Duty mix, like.
I was just like, this was one of those things where it looked impressive enough that I'm just like, damn, this makes X Defiant look very vanilla. Which is good that X Defiant's gonna like go away for a little bit and maybe work on some stuff. Yeah, but when I first saw the trailer, I was like, ah, shit, I'm getting Lawbreakers vibes, but in like a good way.
Yeah, it's like I was like they're carrying money. I was like, so that's like they like Call of Duty had like the bank heist kind of thing. You kill somebody, they turn into a bunch of coins. You can set traps. I'm like, what is this?
There's definitely personality in this that made it look interesting, which again just made something like X Defiant just like look bad. And then it also made me think of the Haven game, Fair Games. I'm just like, man, I hope Fair Games has like some personality like this thing does. So the finals is probably the winner in terms of like interesting content here. We'll talk about the other stuff. Alan Wake 2
looked amazing. I'll never play it, but it looked amazing.
Yeah, it looked great. I might end up picking it up. I still have to replay the remake.
That's
I bought
not a Game Pass
it on PS5.
Game either, right? It's not.
The original,
Alan Wake
I believe, is on Game Pass. Yes,
this new one's not.
No, because I think Epic Games is publishing it.
Yeah, I got you.
For Remedy. Yeah. So that looked great. I think now Alan Wake, it comes out in like 2 weeks or something like that. It definitely hit the point where I think I've seen too many trailers of this. I'm like, I'm radio silent now on this thing, trailer wise. We got a new game from the Chinese room, Still Wakes the Deep. It's the Dear Esther people, the Everybody's Gone to Rapture people. This looks more horror themed, more interactive than some of their previous works.
It looks like a game that's supposed to be on VR, and then they couldn't get it to work on VR.
That's how all of their games kind of give you that vibe. RoboCop showed actually pretty well. Like, I don't care about RoboCop. The previous trailers of it made it look budget as hell. This was a really well put together trailer. I have no idea if the game's going to actually be good. I have doubts.
Do you feel like that it was just a little bit too over the top with the blood?
I mean, RoboCop was pretty gory back then, so they're trying to do their best. I forgot to add one. But yeah, no, I don't know what this game's going to end up being gameplay-wise. If this comes out to be a nothing game, I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone's
like a 10-hour strategy or 10-hour campaign shooter.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah.
And then the thing that I think most people were like really excited about, we got our first look at in-engine footage of Metal Gear Solid Delta, which is the remake of Snake Eater. Looks great, but this literally was just like, look at how pretty our engine was. Maybe some slight like gameplay was visible. It felt weird for me, Dave, because this is like, oh, this is a trailer for a Kojima game, but it has no Kojima personality in it whatsoever because he's not involved with this. But it looked good. Like, the engine looks pretty. Like, it's Unreal Engine 5, so it's hard to make that engine not look pretty, but we'll have to wait and see what Konami does with this. I would be interested to see your first Metal Gear game being like Metal Gear Solid Delta.
Yeah, I mean,
because it is.
I wouldn't play it on the Switch.
No.
It would be an Xbox or PlayStation 5 game for sure. I've dabbled with Metal Gear before, like on PS1, PS2, but never to the extent of like now. Like, I don't know if I have the patience for the stealthiness of it. I've already kind of struggled with that a little bit in Spider-Man 2.
We'll talk about that. Spider-Man 2's got to stop that. But yeah, no. Overall, like, there was some other stuff that popped up, like Ark Survival popped up, which is a game I keep forgetting exists and hasn't released yet.
Full remake? No, like that's a remake of like the first one, I think.
Oh yeah,
so it's a remake on Unreal 5 that they or something like that. And then that was a big deal about Metal Gear's Unreal 5 as well.
Yeah, but the Ark Survival. So did the Vin Diesel one come out yet? No, right?
I don't think so.
Okay. And then there was like Manor Lords popped up, Dungeons of Hinterberg.
I don't know what that game is either. That game, the art style looks really cool, but just like, is it a dungeon crawler? Is it a relationship builder? Like, I can't tell.
Maybe both? A little bit of both. Spirit of the North 2 popped up there as well. Yeah, I remember the first one because of the characters. And then there was a couple other things that popped up. But overall, for like a show with no expectations that Xbox kind of announced last second, it was okay. Nothing here probably would have been worth featuring in like a bigger Xbox showcase.
I think optics fell into play here again as well. People like, oh, they're doing a showcase after the Activision merger. Like, Phil already said that there's nothing coming. Yeah.
He's like, don't expect shit.
They tempered expectations really, really well. Like, where they came out and like when I read the article, a couple people messaged me about it. Like, hey, like, look at this. I'm like, yeah, this is a nothing burger. I was like, this is a nothing burger.
It, can I just say, like, Xbox is like, oh, we haven't even started work on a showcase for Activision Blizzard stuff. I was gonna say, like, I have a feeling the showcase is done and it was done months ago, but legally they're just like, it would be too risky to release it because then someone at the FTC or the CMA is gonna be like,
I don't believe for a second this is the first time Phil has either visited King or talked to people at King. Not for a second.
Oh yeah, he's doing his tour thing. I saw the Blizzard one.
Yep, I don't believe it for a second. Like,
no, you would have had or you mean he hasn't visited since announcing the acquisition, right? Because I would imagine he visited before the acquisition, like in terms of the announcement 20 months ago.
Yeah, but I think after the agreement was made, like if he's not like CC'd on an email here or there, or if he doesn't know what's going on, like even if he's like BCC'd on something, or like he's
at least
he had to give a thumbs up. Like he never spoke on the Zoom meeting, but he'd give a thumbs up or a thumbs down like 3-4 months ago.
He's not in the conference call officially, but someone has him on speakerphone on their cell phone.
Yeah.
In the room, sort of thing. Yeah, I would imagine like they already know what they're gonna do. Like come next year for like say in January when the industry goes back to work. They're not gonna have an event already like planned out.
Right.
Fully. But yeah, that was all I had for the news this week, Dave.
All right. So what we're planning watching, I think it's all gonna like watching for me. It's been more Bird Notice with Angela. I actually started watching because I've been trying to find something to watch when Angela's not home and I don't feel like playing games or something. So I did finally start watching Bel Air on Peacock, which is the Fresh Prince stuff.
Yeah,
it's not bad. It's not great. It's an interesting enough story that I keep kind of wanting to watch and see. They're spending a lot more time focusing on like why he left Philadelphia, which they obviously did not do in the early '90s when the show came out. But it's very much like like kind of what you would expect from a modern day take on the Fresh Prince. It does have some of the throwbacks to the show and some stuff, but there's definitely like all these modern day twists on it. I'm entertained by it, but I'm not like blown away by it. So if you watched if you were ever a fan of Fresh Prince or Will Smith when he was young like that, I think that you would enjoy this. And then at the same time, if you've probably never watched any Fresh Prince before, like you would not be lost. So I think they've handled that balance really well. Bird Notice on Hulu. And then I watched the Lions just get obliterated by Baltimore after they were playing so well
last week.
Yeah, after they were playing so well. It's all right. It's one more loss. And then playing, we'll transition to
I have to Google if the Bears won because I don't fucking think
I think they were off.
Okay, yeah.
No, they did win.
Checks out.
Yeah, they did win. So, and then playing, I did play. I'm not as far in Spider-Man 2 as you've mentioned that you before that you are. I am battling an 8-year-old that wants to play at the same time that I play all the time as well. So I guess like it looks great. The suits look cool. The previously on little like cutscene they did at the beginning, awesome.
That was fantastic. I didn't need it, but I loved it. Yep. The whole thing, the whole setup.
I'm not far enough in it to really make judgment calls, and I'm not in love with the Uncharted feel that I'm getting from it of like exploring the house and conversating with MJ and looking at old photos and seeing that he has a mortgage. Like that part felt a little disconnected to me versus I just enjoy like being in the suit, moving around the city, doing stuff. Like I'd rather just to see more of that. I don't know, like maybe I just wasn't expecting the flashback that you end up playing as, and
I love the flashbacks in the game. There's one scene, I don't know if you got to it, that I absolutely fucking hated in the game that was outside of the suit. I don't know how to did you get to the carnival?
No.
Okay. For those that didn't play the carnival,
I was gonna say I think I'm at the point where I just finished with the propeller.
Okay. Yeah, no, there's one out of the suit thing where you're at a carnival. It almost made me hate the game because it kept going. It was like the longest like 10-15 minutes stretch of the game. But I enjoy the out of suit stuff in terms of like walking through Aunt May's house. Some of the Miles stuff is enjoyable.
I don't know what it is. I like the Miles thing a little bit better than I like the Parker things. Like, and maybe that's just because I just feel like maybe Miles is a little bit of a better character in this game.
I can see that. I would say Miles. So again, we're not talking spoilers, and like I'm enjoying this game. I think like significantly more than you have because I'm almost finished with it. But that also, I'm not battling an 8-year-old for it. But I would say, since I can speak to most of it, Miles stays consistently good. Peter ramps up.
Okay.
And builds to a more compelling story for his character. Miles consistently from beginning to end has a great story, has a good story, but Peter definitely is slow to start before it starts to roll and ramp up.
And this is something I was worried about, the balance between the two characters. Like, I always kind of feel like, oh, should I be playing as Miles? Should I be playing as Parker? Should I be spending points on Miles? Should I be spending them on Parker? I mean, I know eventually I'll get them regardless. Like, I'll just do stuff around the open world and do that stuff. But it's just, I don't know. Like with the city, like I like that the city's bigger, but then I'm also irritated that the city's bigger because like it seems like, oh, your objective is 5,000 meters away, and you have to cross the water, and you can't really cross the water as a web slinger. Like,
well, but they so this here's the thing is like the traversal is way faster than it was because there is no PS4 version. The swinging is actually significantly faster. The web wings are a great addition to it. So the web wings help a lot. When you upgrade the traversal stuff, that helps. I actually, because it is bigger, I'm actually using fast travel from time to time, which is something I never touched before. But fast travels loads so much faster and it's so much easier to use now. That I think
is that something you have to unlock, or is it just available based on where you've been, based on like finishing activities. Focal points in each borough? Okay.
You have to finish 2 or 3 activities in a borough or section or district, and then fast travel is open to you, and it's just you just hold triangle down when you're in the map.
Okay.
So they definitely made it easier for that. I do love that Miles and Peter have separate skill trees, and then they also have a shared one.
Right.
I do love that aspect of it, and as you're playing through the game, like I have like one mission left. I literally know I'm at the very end. And I've completed probably like, I think my percentage complete, including all the side stuff, is like 71%. And I've maxed out all 3 trees, which I think is at least showing you that like you're not going to have to do the thing where you're playing. You're going to be the level. You're going to be the max level going into
You're not second guessing yourself of when you're spending points near the end.
Yeah, you're going to be prepared for that final boss battle, which I think is really well done. The one thing I will say that like I didn't like, I do think there is a little too much going on in terms of like I love that there's a variety of like side content for you to do, like side missions you can do, but between that and like the wind tunnels that you can see when you're in the web wings, there's a lot of like AR UI stuff going around the city that I'm not the biggest fan of, but there's the variety of content I think has been really enjoyable in terms of it's not just usual like, hey, you're going to go into this area and you're going to battle some random criminals. Like there's a lot of different things you can do. I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible in terms of some of that content. But overall, like I'm enjoying the story. I'm looking forward to doing a spoiler cast, Dave, when you do finish it. And just diving into some of the little bits of story, some of the stuff that they're drip feeding in terms of potential places the franchise can go, because there will be a Spider-Man 3 most likely because of how successful it was, but also with all the things that they leave as potential possibilities throughout the story. We can talk at least about like Kraven being like the main villain. I think Kraven turned out to be a very good like villain for the first game, or for this game as its own thing. And I think that was something that like, I don't know about you, Dave, but as someone who likes Spider-Man like lore and stuff like that, I was kind of worried about Kraven holding up a game, and I think Kraven does like a really good job at being like the main villain. but overall, I think this game is just fantastic. It's damn near perfect. I will say, Dave, I don't know if you've ran into any glitches or bugs, but I will say I feel like I ran into a couple more glitches and bugs than I did in the first game in Miles Morales, which is a little bit of a bummer.
I've seen some funky things in cutscenes with suits.
Yeah.
I've seen some, for some reason, and I mean, maybe it's just because I'm rusty, but for some reason I struggle with some of the traversal. Like, I feel like I can't get moving quick enough. But I know some of it's just like a little bit of my rustiness. I'm still like, today I had a hard time healing. So just things that it's just not feeling as fluid for me yet, and maybe that comes with more time. I don't remember it like having to hold like L1 to do one set of skill trees and R1 to do another set of skills. I don't remember that in Miles or in the first one. It doesn't mean that
you had to do that in Miles, I think, more than you did the first game.
But it always seems like they have a lot of the prompts on the screen, which are great, like triangle and circle to do a finisher move and stuff like that, and that's awesome. But then I feel like I need to heal, and then I can't heal because I don't have enough focus.
Yeah, no, definitely there does seem to be like a little bit battle with building up that focus meter. Like, it does sometimes feel punishing when you're in like a really long fight. But it forces you to actually use all the tools that they give you, because Peter has 4 specific abilities that he can have at one time on top of like the different web shooter abilities, and Miles has his own abilities as well. So there's at least a lot of depth there and things you can do with that Insomniac is basically leading you away of like, hey, don't just mash square and triangle. Like, there's cool abilities and you should use them, and there's cool combinations that you can do with this stuff. Some of the bugs though have like bummed me out. I had like one major boss battle get bugged out on me to where I had to basically like cheese it because like an enemy got stuck in a tree and I could barely hit them, so I'd have to wait for my focus to like charge up so then I can like take them out. And there was some like quality of life stuff that was in Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales that just isn't here in this game, which is a little bit of a bummer. Like, I love the photography mode in Miles and Spider-Man 1 because that allowed you to also like change the time of day, so you can get the right time for your photos. There is no way to change time of day. You can't go night to daytime in the game anymore. There is no New Game Plus. You can't replay missions. There's a couple things that I don't know why they're not there, but I know New Game Plus is coming. I hope replaying missions is coming in the future too, because I like the idea of replaying missions, especially like some of the like smaller crime ones, especially if you're trying to like get a platinum trophy, which I'm trying to do. But there's a lot of different things that this game is doing right. I can't emphasize how much I'm loving the story because I don't want to spoil things, but I think that's really good. Gameplay wise, I think that there's a ton of variety here in terms of like combat and in terms of just like mission variety. Though I do wish they would just let Miles like be a kid from time to time. It seems like Miles, everything when he's out of the suit is like saving the world sort of stuff, and I kind of just would like a mission where Miles could just have fun, or Peter have fun too. Like, it seems like everything they do is like, I'm trying to save the world or better my community, and I kind of just want them to have fun from time to time. But there's a ton of personality in this game. I mentioned earlier when you mentioned stealth, Mary Jane missions are still the worst. I like Mary Jane as a character, but I do not like playing as Mary Jane. Like, her stealth missions I do not like them. I don't know if you've had any Mary Jane stealth missions yet.
No.
There's at least 3, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, and I just did not like them at all.
But there's been one that I had to go find a different way in somewhere and like hide behind something and climb underneath a table, and I'm just like, this is not how I want to play. I get that they're trying to tell a story, but I'm just like, can I be done with this, please? Like,
yeah, and that's the thing is like, Spider-Man stealth makes sense. It's something a character's always been able to do, but I don't feel like Insomniac has nailed exactly how those stealth missions are supposed to go. Especially the non superhero ones. When you are doing stuff with Mary Jane, it's like I don't know.
And then it's kind of doing those little mini missions where it tries to weave story content in, and it gives you like new things to collect.
Which I don't mind. I like collecting all the things just because I love the traversal stuff. I love doing all the missions. So I'm enjoying all the little stuff that it's like feeding into there. And as much as I hate all the things cluttering the map, it just makes me want to clear them up faster, just so I can clear that map. But I this is definitely better than the first game. I think I tweeted out, like I gave the first game a 10, and this one I would probably do a 9.5, and that doesn't mean this game is worse. It's just the first Spider-Man was the first Spider-Man. It was like, oh shit, they can pull off Spider-Man, and this is like, hey, they are still pulling off Spider-Man. It just doesn't have as big an effect as like their first go around. But I do love how diverse New York looks in terms of like the environment. Like I don't know if you've explored all around New York, but like it's nice that it's not just city. You have like a little bit of like the suburb looking area. There's like a foresty area, not like full forest, but like there's enough going on now that I don't know what they'll do for a third game in terms of like, I'm sure we'll be back in New York, but I hope that they open up like a different environment, or maybe that's when we get like a globe-trotting sort of Spider-Man experience. But overall, like Spider-Man 2 is probably my game of the year right now.
And I'm a creature of the moment. Like I haven't had a story beat yet that's hit me. So I'm sure it's coming. And then when it comes, that's when I'm gonna want to like, oh, what happens next? Oh, okay, now what happens next? Now, oh, like what's going on with this? Like I'm sure that we're close. I'll get near that point. It happened with
after the halfway
games.
point. Yeah, I would say is when the story beats start hitting to where you're like, oh shit, I'm not doing any side content. I'm going to the next story beat.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of get into a flow, and I accidentally ended up in a flow where I'm at the very last mission, and I'm like, shit, I wasn't ready to do this yet. So I'm doing the thing where like as I'm swinging around, Peter's constantly being like, oh man, I should really go do this thing because he's trying to get me to do the last mission. But I'm like, nope, we got to clear up this map before we go to the last mission. Even though I know you can play the city, throughout the city after you finish the game, but it's one of those things where I'm just like, no, I want to have 100% before I hit that last story beat.
You're right. All right. You watching anything, or has it mostly been Spider-Man?
Nope, it's been Spider-Man this whole weekend. Like I'm like 25 hours into this game, so I dragged it out to a 30-hour game.
Nice. All right. So we're gonna move on to questions. We have a couple questions. So you can send us questions using hashtag AskDDG. Or Ask Digital Days. I don't know why I said DDG. Sorry. Hashtag Ask Digital Days. You can put them on Twitter. You can put them on our Discord. You can put them on Facebook. You don't have to wait for the posts. You want to go ahead and read the first questions?
Yeah. So Stefan asks, what Halloween games do you play at this time of year? Dave, I imagine you're not much of a Halloween video game player. So I'll take this one.
Yeah, unless you have one. That's why I wanted you to read it. My Halloween consists of messing around Destiny with their Halloween event. That's essentially what I've been doing on Halloween the last 5 or 6 years, and I don't even do that much anymore.
For me, in terms of like Halloween type games, I was tempted to play Siren again, which was out on the PS3 all those years ago, and the PS2 was the original one. That's a game that I visit every once in a while. Need to revisit it maybe this year. Killer Frequency is something that I played like just a couple months ago, which I wish I saved for Halloween because that was a really good experience if you're looking for like new games. But then I also like one that I think Dave you should play probably with Owen is Costume Quest. I've heard, really...
Yeah, isn't there like Costume Quest and Costume Quest 2?
Yeah, and both of them are on Game Pass, I believe.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's a really fun. It's a short game too. It's a Halloween game where these kids are trick or treating and they get to turn into their costumes to fight monsters that have invaded the city. Very cartoon style, art style. I think there was actually an Amazon cartoon for it as well. Okay. That lasted like a season or two. So Costume Quest is one definitely worth visiting or revisiting if you play it frequently.
Awesome. All right. And then Robert asks, gaming question: do you get excited for games with silly release dates like GTA 6? I'm not really sure if I understand this question, other than like the silly release date of like we don't know when it's coming.
I took it as that, or the hype that people get, where I don't know if you know how many people are like, today is the day that they're announcing GTA 6's release date. And there's like Twitter accounts dedicated to guessing when GTA 6 is going to be released or when they're going to make the official announcement. So I would say no, I don't get silly in terms of my hype. Like, I was hyped for Spider-Man 2, but I wasn't going crazy for it. Dave, you're probably excited for the next expansion for Destiny, but you probably don't have a countdown timer going for it.
I think I put on the Facebook group and tweeted like, I worked. I was off for the weekend and I ended up filling it up with some other stuff. But I worked on the day the Spider-Man released, and I'm kind of to the point where I'm not even. I used to, like 3-4 years ago, I would take off a Destiny expansion day or days off of work. When I feel like when God of War 2018 came out, I feel like I took a day off. But then I'm like, all right, I'll just play Spider-Man when I have time. And I don't know if that's just is coming with, just age, like where it's just like, it's not worth it. Or I mean, I don't know, because like I feel bad that I'm not as far as I want to be in Spider-Man, but I also, for whatever reason, like haven't been able to give it more than 2.5 hours of attention at a time. Compared to, if I had to guess, you've probably done a 4 to 6 hour session.
No, I can't play games like that anymore. It's been like two hours at a time, and then I take a little bit of a break, and then I think maybe the longest I played it at one sitting is like 3 hours, 4 hours. But for the most part, I play 2 hours at a time. Especially during the work week, I've been maybe getting in an hour before bed.
All right. Yeah, so I mean, I definitely don't. I feel like those days are kind of gone, and I think some of that has to do with like the digital event. Like that's just the way of the world. Like I mean, I pre-ordered Spider-Man like Thursday afternoon, and I downloaded it, and I was done. Like there wasn't any. It came out on Friday. There was no midnight release, and I had to go stand in line and get my ticket and go with a friend of mine, and like now I want to go home and play because I've just been out here with all these people talking about it and having fun, and I feel like that some of that nostalgic feel is just gone. But yeah, I mean, I don't really get any. I don't even think, like, I mean, Uncharted is one of my favorite franchises. I don't think I would get super giddy if they announced Uncharted 5 tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I would get excited, but I'm not a mark my calendar sort of person. Like, I took the day off for Spider-Man, but like I literally asked for that day off like a week before.
Right.
Because I knew I could get it. Right. That day off.
And you were trying to protect your statue.
Yes, it is my new child. It's behind me. I look at it every once in a while and I'm like, oh, it's so pretty. That thing is an amazing statue. I'm glad I picked it up, but still.
And then Robert asked a food-based question as well. How do you have your steak, and what is your favorite steakhouse chain? So go ahead.
Medium rare.
Same.
Like I'll usually ask for a medium rare, and then if it comes medium, I'm perfectly fine with that, because I know most times they end up overcooking it slightly anyway, so I just go like medium rare. In terms of chains, I don't really go to steakhouse chains because since Sarah's a vegetarian, most steakhouse chains aren't the most friendly for vegetarians, so we always look for something that has a little bit something for both of us. I have been to a Ruth's, and that was pretty good, and then Fogo de Chao is really good. I don't know if technically it's a Brazilian steakhouse.
Yeah.
So those are the two that I can name, but I tend to like to just make my own steak because it's cheaper, and I actually kind of have fun when I make a steak. I don't know, like it's just something relaxing about making your own steak. I'm not like some Hank Hill grilling it outside person, but I just like making my own steak.
I don't do a lot of cooking myself, not because I can't cook, but just because Angela's.
Because you can't cook.
I can, but Angela's better at it than I am, and Angela also has more time and patience. But
Dave just eats his food raw because he's like, I'm not waiting 3 minutes on each side.
No, she just cooks it. It's just, for the most part, like it's just the way that our relationship works. It's just easier, so for everybody.
If you were to make her dinner, would she look at you like, what did you do?
No, it's just kind of one of those things where with my job and the lack of consistency with my schedule, which is getting more consistent now that
No, but I'm just asking, like, if you just like were like, I'll take care of dinner, would she eat it without being like, let me look at this a little bit?
The only reason that she would probably be like that is because it's been a very, very long time since I probably cooked an entire meal, like very long time. But I am not an incapable person.
Would she be like, did you wash the chicken before you cooked it? Like, give you those questions?
No, but I mean, we don't really cook any kind of super elaborate meals anyways, for the record, just because life. And then I guess like I'm with you. I Texas Day Brazil, Fogo de Chao are both some like kind of like all you can eat places that we've been to. But ultimately, in terms of like when we go out to dinner with like, especially if I'm going out to dinner like with Jonathan and Brinkley and Zoe and Owen and us, it ends up being like Texas Roadhouse.
I've never been to one of those.
But. Yeah, but it's good. I mean, I'm not sitting there saying it's like it's not going to be like a like super high end. If it was Angela and I going somewhere, like we've tried to like we've gotten off of it the last couple months, especially since my store opened. But when we try to do like dinner and a movie, like or if we just go out for dinner, we try to go somewhere like different, and trying some other places. But I mean, this as well as I do, man. Like sometimes it gets to the point of like, is it really worth going out to dinner when it's like $90 now or whatever?
Well, yeah, especially that I have that problem with steakhouses.
Yeah.
Just like I don't even want to know what inflation's done to steakhouses.
Yeah, normally like we'll go to like a small chain like bar that has food.
Yeah, no, I prefer those. Like our favorite burger place is a bar.
Yeah. Like I would say it's like Applebee's, but it's not. It's like an independently owned, or like they have like 3 or 4 restaurants.
So good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the opposite of Applebee's. I'm just saying more
like in terms of the style of setup of like there's tables, there's a bar, there's TVs, like that's like that's core. There's been a couple times that we've been to places that like I can't think of the name, like Hot Rocked. Like that you cook, like they bring you the food and it's like you cook it on the rock, like it's a
not hot pot, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we've done a couple of those things. Recently, Angela and I have tried to find like a Korean barbecue in the Metro Detroit area. We found
has that been hard to find?
Yeah, challenging. So just and so like I mean those are the kind of things that we've been trying, but for the most part. If it came down to it, in order for me to get like the best bang for my buck, is like it would just be taking people to Texas Roadhouse. The bread's really good. The food and the vegetables and stuff that you get are it's solid. So, but all right. So that is our show for today.
That's normal food takes for once for both of us.
Yeah. We're getting close to Thanksgiving, so I'm sure we'll hear some weird stuff out of you again.
Probably.
So you can follow us.
People at work found out I don't like pancakes, or I just had pancakes for the first time 5 years ago, and they were all just like, "What?" It's like, yeah. Also, mashed potatoes are bad.
Oh
like,
my god!
People were just freaking out.
You can follow us on Twitter at Digital Days Pod. You can follow Michael at The First MJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Our Facebook group is there. It's a little quiet in there lately. I got to get a little better myself. So yeah, Facebook groups is linked in the show notes. Discord server is linked in the show notes. We have a Patreon as well if you want to check that out. I'd be curious as well. I saw an email this week or last week about Patreon that we are able to sell is the wrong word, but we're able to post episodes individually if we wanted to. So like as an example, if there's something on there that, I don't know, E3 memories that Michael and I have, done that.
That you can just acquire that specific episode.
Correct. Yeah. So like, I don't know, like $1 an episode. Yeah. I don't know, $2 an episode. I don't know. Like I was just little things. If there would be anything specific that anybody would be super interested in, let us know, send me a message. And we'll see. We'll kind of go from there. Definitely need to pay a little bit more attention to Patreon and definitely hit that hard. I think that'll be coming out of our holiday break, that Patreon will be a focus heavily in 2024.
A restructuring sort of thing.
Yeah. So definitely not doing as good of a service as we should, but as always, we appreciate everyone that has chosen to support us. Most of you have had individual conversations with, and you're like, hey, I don't really care what you're doing. I just like to support you. And we love and appreciate that. So thank you. But yeah, other than that, I think that is everything. So I will do my due diligence to spend some more time on Spider-Man to get that taken care of as soon as I can. But I have Halloween coming up, so and then I think we have a camping trip the weekend after Halloween with Scouts. So, but other than that, I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya. I almost hit the wrong thing.
Thanks, Curry. Thanks for hanging out. It's such a different look with like I'm such a creature of habit, but like the restream thing just changed like the color and everything. Like just little stupid crap. It's interesting. Oh, geez. There's Paige. Thank you, Paige. Appreciate you hanging out. And I noticed something on Twitch too. Like it says that it knows that I have Twitch muted. I think you're muted. So.
It did not say that last week. Oh, you have it muted.
Did you see what I'm talking about though?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so maybe that was something that came out of Twitch.
Does it say from me?
I don't think you typed in chat. It does not.
Okay, because I have it muted because I have it running, but I mute it.
But like, did you you hit the mute on the Twitch stream itself, or did you just turn something else down?
No, I have it muted on the Twitch stream, and I have the tab muted as well, just so it doesn't like bounce into the thing.
Yeah. So
super weird.
Yeah. Maybe that's a setting that I have turned on that I didn't realize I had turned on. So, but. All right. So, all right. We'll talk to everyone later. I'll be curious to how this uploads to YouTube, so I'll keep an eye on that. So, thank you guys for hanging out and chatting and watching, and appreciate you. And we will talk to you all later.